Hello everyone on the internet and thanks for tuning in. I'm RyuKiva of RyuKiva Toku. There are no products to unbox or analyse, nor is there a brother at my side on the split screen. It's just me, my camera phone and my list. Welcome to my tokusatsu chart rundown 2020. My charts took days to compile. I look at each series on their merits and flaws alone before having each one face off with other series in its franchise to give them a score. The league tables had their positions based on points alone, and I would either bump them up or bring them down based on how I actually felt they should go on my own personalised chart. Everything in these charts are spoiler free. I will summarise a rundown for each series in ascending order, outlining for each my thoughts overall, various comparisons before stating its score and recommendations. Let me know what you think. Where does your favourite Super Sentai series appear on my list? As someone who has watched Five Man to present, this is part 2 of my list. Kira Major doesn't make the list because it's an ongoing series. But here I will be talking about those that ranked in my middle 10, so that's between 20 to 11. Starting at number 20, we've got Bakuryu Sentai Abare, Abare, Abare. As a standalone series, it did kind of start quite slow, but it did get better. I mean, I absolutely loved the Abare Killer storyline, and like the stuff going on with Abare Black was kind of really all up in the air. I mean, I loved how abstract and artistic the villains were, but the Monster of the Week, they did have some good moments, but then, again, all about the intentions. I'm not too sure if I understood it too greatly. In terms of design, I absolutely love the design of the suits. I love the design of the mecha still. But I'll still say they had like a lot of... It brings back a lot of nostalgic memories as well, being the second Dino series of Super Sentai. The little Mai character was adorable, but when she became an adult, so much hotter, not going to lie to you. The music was definitely iconic, and there was a lot of themes going on that I liked. I mean, I love the dark vibe that was going on. That crocodile phone thing, I'm not too sure what was going on with that, but it just adds to how abstract this series genuinely was. But if I'm genuinely honest, the main cast was a bit meh. When it comes to comparing it to Dino Thunder, I'll probably say they are two very different series, but I'd probably say Abaranger probably just about notches it for me in terms of those two. In terms of score, I scored this one 16 points, which is ironic because in 2013 it was 16th out of 25 on my 2013 list. In at number 19, QQ Sentai Gogo 5. This had a very poor start in my opinion. I mean, there's not really much you can do when you've got a Sentai based on emergency services. But once it got going, I felt it was insanely good. I mean, it had a very strong cast in my opinion. I did like the cast. I mean, Pink was just so kawaii. The villains, it was such a dark element, but there was like some mad baby thing if I remember. I actually did get emotional watching towards the end. I mean, vampire chick, whatever she was quite hot. The family dynamic, I mean, especially that old father, he was quite funny. I love the dystopian vibe of Gogo 5, and that OP is quite iconic. I'll still say that the mentor could have been a little bit more grounded, but what can you say? In terms of comparing it to Lightspeed Rescue, again, they were very different series. I don't know which one would I consider better. I reckon Lightspeed Rescue had much better style, but I would say Gogo 5 was a much better darker series. I mean, those who like their dark series would definitely like Gogo 5. In terms of score, I gave it 14 points and it was 11th on my 2013 list. In at number 18, Gogo Sentai Bokenja. They did a good job here paying homage to every Sentai prior in my opinion. And I do feel that they pulled off something really special. I mean, the plot was much easier to follow, even though they also had like a lot of villain teams. But they, like the way they did it week to week was probably much better to follow, even though there were a couple of dry episodes. It was a hell of a series. I mean, not so much martial arts action, but I did feel that they had good, strong storytelling. I'll still say it was very stylish. I mean, I loved Akashi and Gogo Black and Gogo Yellow were quite cool as well. I'm calling them wrong names. Boken Red was pretty stylish, Akashi. And I think it was Masumi, and I can't remember Boken Yellow's name. I'll still say, like, they had good origin stories for all the heroes. And the music was pretty good. Silver Ranger had a really good storyline, and just, you know, like those who like those Indiana Jones, you know, kind of adventurous style series, this is definitely a good series to watch. I mean, that it did have a cluster thug of a mecha as well, and then the main villain was a bit of a Ku Klux Klan ripoff. I wasn't too hot on Blue Ranger, and Zuban really did my nut. But 100%, this is 100% better than Operation Overdrive. So definitely give Overdrive a miss, but Bokenja's pretty good. And, you know, like, I don't know about comparing it to other Sentai. I mean, maybe Kira Major, there's like a couple of bits there, but I'll still say, like, those who like that Indiana Jones kind of thing, it's definitely the kind of series you'd want to watch. So I scored this one 22 points, but that is, it has dropped 10 positions from my 2013 list because it was 8th back then. In at number 17, Zuden Sentai Kyoryuja. The most abstract, batshit, well, actually not the most, but it was still pretty wild and pretty high up there. But I felt quite mixed about the series. I mean, I would need an essay to describe it. But I did love, like, the crossover movie with Go Busters. That was probably one of the best crossover movies in. Actually, no, way out. It was the best crossover movie in my opinion. And they deliberately went for all these strong characters. Not too sure how I felt about the suit designs. The mecha were pretty decent, but again, with all these auxiliary mecha, it just got a bit too much for me personally. I'll say it was actually a good cast, and Gold Ranger was pretty decent as well. And but I didn't like the female Violet Ranger. The male Violet was alright. Professor Ushade, I think his name was. Torin, good mentor. I'll definitely say it was good mentor, and the music was pretty decent. I'm not too sure how I felt about the villains, but they did have a decent story, admittedly. And comparing this to Dino Charge, I will say Dino Charge is probably a little better. Not by much. They're quite similar. So those who like those zany series, those who like those Dino series, this is still pretty decent. Kyoryuja, I gave it 12 points. And it's roughly in the same area that it was on my 2013 list, where it was a number 18, Seed. But ironically, number 16 is Kishiryu Sentai Ryu Soldier. Last year's Sentai series, last year's Dino series. I actually felt this was, I mean, ironically, even though I've ranked this so high, because it was generally a rubbish series for most of it, but it really did have a good ending. I'd say that there were, again, it's quite an alternative way of storytelling. It was quite a sort of, it was a much more subtle, it was nowhere near as zany as the previous the 3 Dino series that preceded it. I'll still say Gaisorg, I'm not too sure how I felt about Gaisorg. I mean, you got like a very strong Pink Ranger. I love the Gold Ranger in this. When it came to the Master Mentors, Master Red and that. But the thing is, I think if I remember correctly, Master Black was the actor from Time Ranger, which his character was absolutely amazing. But the standout character for me in this is Tiramigo. So if you love your comedy, Ryu Soldier is definitely the one. In comparison to Dino Fury, oh well, that's not on until next year. The Monsters of the Week, I'm not too sure how I felt about, let alone the generals. I mean, there was one that looked like a castle, I think. And then the one that was doing all the Monster of the Week creations, that mushroom thing, I'm not too sure how I felt about it. I mean, there was still like hit and miss script and storytelling, but it was inconsistent in my opinion. In at number 15, Toriki Sentai Dash Ranger. I felt that this is the most underrated series in Sentai. It doesn't deserve to be. Probably it gets underrated because it was admittedly, just like Ryu Soldier, it was a very weak start. But the choreography in this series was actually really good. I mean, you know, like I can't, I mean, you know, like it kind of mishmashed its theme. It's like it was ancient power with modern, you know, not necessarily military, but I think they were like officers of the law or something. But their choreography and style was definitely spot on. There was some clever humour in this. I mean, pink and yellow, absolutely smoking hot. I mean, maybe the villains were a bit silly, but that just kind of added to the zaniness that was very cleverly done in this series. Definitely good martial arts, good mecha, and you know, I love the OP totally. I mean, the King Ranger storyline, I'm still a bit hit and miss on that. This series is definitely better than Zeo by a country mile. I mean, again, like I think if you like those like police-esque, you know, sort of, you know, really well-established team Sentais or tokusatsus, then this is definitely the one for you. I scored O Ranger 17 points, and it's fallen a little bit from its seed, 12 seed, but I'll probably say that's mostly because I have introduced like newer teams to this chart. In at number 14, here's the surprise oddball here. Hikonin Sentai Akibarenja. Technically this shouldn't be on my list, but this series is so mental and it is an unofficial Sentai, but I will officially make it an unofficial official on my list Sentai. That's how crazy this team was. I loved how spaced out the Red Ranger was, Akiba Red. Not too sure what was going on with blue and yellow though, but the villains were you know, like they looked good. You had the sexy one, you had the roboty one. The mecha was, I mean, I think they did it rubbish for a reason. They really must have been on a budget here. I'm not too sure how I felt about them constantly breaking the fourth wall, but at least they kind of did it in this very bizarre style. The whole series was bizarre. And from what I've heard, that they did actually pay a lot of Showa homage, which I must have missed out on. They had this anime thing going on in it. And, you know, when it came to the Blue Ranger, again, I'm not too, you know, I really wish that they'd just stuck with one, even though they couldn't have helped it. Akiba Ranger scored 17 points and is new to the list. In at number 13, Magi Ranger, Mahou Sentai, Magi Ranger. Now, as a standalone series, this really does amazing. So, you know, like, I don't really want to start chatting Harry Potter here. So this is a billion times better than, you know, I've seen all the Harry Potter movies. This is a million times better than Harry Potter. I mean, you know, like, I guess this is probably, I mean, I'm doing this in reverse now. So, like, I'd probably say this is a very good early Sentai to start with. If someone's been introduced to Super Sentai, this would be a pretty decent one to introduce them to. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be into that whole magic thing. I mean, maybe if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, maybe this is probably a good one to recommend. I'll also say that, you know, coming into like the characters were all pretty strong. I mean, you got a child rookie, well, not child, I guess technically a child rookie Red going on here, and Green Ranger's the one that obviously stands out here. I mean, Magi Shine, I did not like him at all. Those who are well versed in the universe compare him to Michael Jackson simply because of the whole thing with Magi Blue. That cat thing, that plant thing, not too sure how I felt about those, but it's quite a zany series. It's quite dark in terms of its villain element. You had that vampire thing, Nightmare, the twins, and then you had those 10 super generals and 10 more super duper generals. So it was very structured. I'll still say, like, the story arcs are very structured, but that could be, so if you like your story very linear, it's a very linear story, which can be neither here nor there. The movie was actually pretty good, I'll give it that much. In comparison to Mystic Force, Magi Ranger's definitely a lot better than Mystic Force. I mean, Mystic Force is somewhat good, and I'll talk about Mystic Force in my Power Ranger list, but Magi Ranger was definitely a lot better. I scored Magi Ranger 19 points, and it only fell a couple of positions as it was number 9 on my 2013 list. In at number 12, Kakuranjan, Ninja Sentai Kakuranjan. This was the hardest series to place on my list because it is, like, I mean, I must have used this description already in the series prior, but this is the most batshit crazy series of anything in the history of television. I mean, they had these really crazy story arcs. They had this really nutty narrator at the beginning, which they used him constantly for the first several episodes, and then he disappeared and would come popping back every so often. I did love Junior. Prince Junior was an amazing character. And, you know, just to dip into it for a second, he was definitely a million times better than Rito Revolto from Mighty Morphin Series 3. You know, you had a really strong ninja team. I mean, you had a Rookie Red, who was originally a Thug Red. White Ninja was definitely the one that kicked butt. Jiraiya, Ninja Black, the comedy character, and he does it so well. But when it comes to story arcs, I love the story arcs in the second half, especially when you had each ranger go off and do their own little story, sort of soul-searching thing. And, you know, I'll probably say too many mecha. Yeah, definitely too many mecha, and they were doing so much experimentation. Super Sentai World, well, what you gonna say, what you gonna do? But it was definitely a lot better than, even though Mighty Morphin Series 3 was definitely a parody onto itself, this is definitely a better series. I scored Kakuranjan 20 points, and it's actually gone up in my estimation from 2013, as this was 14th on that list. And finally, for my middle 10, number 11, Kaizaka Sentai Go Kaija. I'm probably going to cop a lot of flack for ranking this in my middle 10 as opposed to just missing out on the top 10. But for me, this is definitely the most overrated series. But I will still say it's a good series, but I just felt it was overrated. I mean, you know, because it really relied heavily on nostalgia and cameos, but it did still have its own level of, you know, its own section of good storytelling with Basco and whatever nuttiness they had going on with Blue. Yeah, I mean, Blue had a really good storyline. I mean, Red was obviously tied to the anniversary Red Ranger and stuff, which they could have done so much more with, but will they do any more? Maybe for the 10th anniversary next year, who knows. I'll still say it had amazing style. I mean, it was Hadini Ikuze for a reason. I'll still say that monkey thing with Basco, not too sure what was going on, but it was quite funny still. You had like a hot cast, a good cast. Everyone loves Luca Milfi. Silver, I mean, very bizarre Silver Ranger. I will also say, like, the movies were pretty decent. I mean, even the one where they did the Gavan crossover was pretty good as well. With the Commanders, I kind of felt they were a bit done before, but that final episode, admittedly, was amazingly good. I would probably say this is probably not a Sentai to start off with. I will probably say still, not really much to compare it to. I mean, it's literally of its own thing. I mean, in terms of comparisons to Super Megaforce, I mean, if I say anything positive about Megaforce right now, I'll probably be castrated, but I will still say Go Kaija is a much better series than Super Megaforce, just put it that way. So that is my middle 10. I hope you guys enjoyed what you heard. Let me know what you think. You can still follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as this very YouTube channel, my Patreon and my WordPress at RyuKivaToku.wordpress.com. Hope to see you for part 3 for my top 10.